Hey, Bulls and Bears, it is Thursday. It is New Year's Eve. Happy holidays. Happy upcoming New Year. I'll probably put out a couple videos between now and the New Year, but happy early New Year if I don't hear from you, or if you don't hear from me between now and then. We've got some very important topics to discuss here, and this has to do with multiple nations preparing for a grid down scenario. We're talking about the entire banking system getting compromised. And we're going to talk about what that means. We're going to show you some articles and what that means. What would you think would happen? What do you think would happen if the banks were no longer able to give out cash? The ATM machines are dark. People cannot take out money. How long until chaos would erupt? My guess is within just a couple days, because so many people are dependent on swiping their cards, using borrowed money, etc., to be able to just buy basics, just buy food. We're not even talking about buying cars, and of course those things would be affected also, but just basics. Most Americans can't even buy basic goods. They can't even pay their utilities on a month-to-month basis without some sort of credit or card or bank account to pay it from. So if the banks go down, if the banks go dark, you're going to see very, very bad things happen in a very short amount of time. And I would estimate, please let me know what you think down in comments. I would estimate 1 to 2 days you would start to see chaos across the country. It would be worse and much more noticeable in larger cities. If you're out in the country, if you're away from the big populated areas, you'll be safer for a little bit longer. But ultimately, the chaos from the city will spill out into the country as more people go to try to find food and try to scavenge what you have if the banks go down. But let's take a look at a recent Reuters article and talk about this. The IMF is preparing for a cyber attack. And when I say prepare, they're doing what's called a simulation on a global financial scale. So global financial system, they're doing a simulation. What would happen if there was a cyber attack? From this article here, Israel led a 10-country simulation of a major cyber attack on the global financial system in an attempt to increase cooperation that could help minimize any potential damage to financial markets and banks. Now, I'm sure most people out there would say, okay, this is what they're doing to prepare for this type of scenario. That way they can try to keep everything in order, to keep everyone safe. Other people may say, why are they preparing for this? Do they see something on the horizon? Is something going to happen? And also there's other people out there that will say the central banks need an excuse to pop these bubbles. They can't just raise interest rates. Everyone will notice and they'll know exactly who to blame. They can't just pull back the stimulus, the QE, all the support, all the financial stimulus. Everyone will notice. They'll know who to blame. So there are people out there that'll tell you that there is a planned outage. That way they can bring this economy down, and they can just blame some anonymous hacker that no one has the ability to know about or see or prove. All right. I'm not telling you I believe this. I really do not know what's going to happen. I do not work for the IMF. I do not work for any global financial institution. I do not have any connections to any world leaders that may have more knowledge about this. So again, I want to make it clear. I'm not saying this. I'm just letting you know what this Reuters article is telling us. And I'm asking the question, why are they preparing for such a massive cyber event? Please let me know down in comments. I tend to think it's just like many things that you can prepare for. There's fire drills. If you've ever been in a school that had a fire drill when you were a kid, doesn't mean that they're going to have a fire for sure. No, it just means that they're preparing. It could be something as innocent as preparing for something that could happen. Other people are less trusting and they say this whole thing is engineered. It's all going to be brought down on purpose. Again, I don't work for these global institutions. I don't know what they're doing. I'm just letting you know what they're preparing for. And if it wasn't possible then why would they be preparing for it? So anything's possible. Anything could happen. The dangerous part is everyone's so hooked into the system right now. They're hooked into the grid. They're so dependent on instant credit at the snap of a finger, borrow money, get money out of the machine, swipe your card, buy food, pay your utilities. If it doesn't happen, you're going to see chaos erupt very, very quickly. Again, in just 2 to 3 days, people will be freezing if they can't pay the utility bills. The northern states of the US, throughout Canada, you're going to see a lot of people not even survive for a few days unless the utility companies throw a lifeline and still keep the power on, still keep the gas on, even when people stop paying their bills. It's a possibility you could see that type of charity, just like we saw in 2020 with the health crisis. You saw a lot of utility companies cancel payments. We saw student loans get canceled. They're still canceled, by the way. They pushed it back now to, I believe, May 2022 because people cannot repay these loans. So they just have to keep kicking the can down the road. And some people say they can kick the can down the road forever. Other people say that at some point there's a breaking point. There's the straw that breaks the camel's back moment. That one day we're just going to wake up and everything's going to go to instant chaos, instant collapse. Now, another article out of NASDAQ says the following. The same headline, 10 countries simulate the cyber attack on the financial system. But it gives us a warning. Quote, attackers are 10 steps ahead of the defender. And that's Michael Weiss, the financial cyber manager at Israel's finance ministry. And listen to this next part right here. Quote, the banks are appealing for emergency liquidity assistance in a multitude of currencies to put a halt to the chaos as counterparties withdraw their funds and limit access to liquidity, leaving the banks in disarray and ruin. That is a quote. So they're preparing for chaos, or what they're telling us is they're preparing to get emergency measures in line to avoid chaos and disarray and ruin. And this article continues, still out of NASDAQ here, quote, as soon as the supply of money were hampered, at least in the European Union, we would probably have an emergency meeting on the same day, adding that he would immediately reach out to counterparts across Europe and the United States. So the language that's being used here, having an emergency meeting on the same day, lets us know that they know they would also see chaos erupt in just a very short amount of time, just a few days. They would have an emergency meeting on the same day is what they're telling us. Again, I'm not making any predictions. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just letting you know what they're preparing for. It could be a big nothing burger, just like the whole Evergrande collapse, over in China. People thought that was going to be the beginning of the collapse, that there was going to be a domino effect across the entire global financial system. But with our system of money, they could have just gotten a backdoor bailout with just digits on a screen pumped into the company. No company has to fail when you have this type of monetary system. Digital notes to infinity that can rescue any failed company. So it's all about who the drivers, the people that are steering the economy, who they want to succeed, who they want to fail. If it's a major financial institution, if it's a major bank, typically that institution's not going to be allowed to fail. The average person, the average middle class person working 9 to 5, struggling to get by, you're allowed to lose your home. You're allowed to end up on the street in a tent. You're not too big to fail. I wish we were, but we're not. So stay on top of the game. Ride the bull. Look for investment opportunities because this inflation is not going to stop unless there is some sort of big moment where the entire system just goes dark. They're doing a simulation. I don't have all the scoop on it. Please let me know what you think down in the comments. Until then, be well, stay safe, everybody. Keep stacking. Bye for now. Peace.